And welcome to Board Game Binge, the place where we bring you bite-sized, bingeable board game content from across the industry. I'm your host, James Staley, and in this episode, we're chatting with Alex Young and Morgan Parker from Team Pomelo Games. Last year, they successfully funded Pretty Princess Pomelo, the magical girl combat card game, and now they're back with additional add-ons, artwork, and complementary elements that they're added to the game. Gentlemen, welcome to the binge. How you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, great. Yeah, great.
So, Alex, you were on this podcast. We were just saying before we went on air, episode 36. My gosh, that was a long time ago. We're now episode 211. So welcome back to you. I think that's awesome to have you back here. Morgan, this is your first time on the podcast. So we're going to start off really quickly. We're going to get Alex just to give a brief overview of kind of his background, what he does, how he got into games. Then we're going to probably switch and spend more time on Morgan because I really want to dive deep into manga and anime and all that kind of stuff. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Let's do it.
All right, Alex, maybe you can give us a background. So first of all, you're like a graphic artist in your day job, right?
Graphic designer.
A graphic designer.
Less of an artist. Yeah.
And then you've been board gaming your whole life, or is this something that you've got into when did you get into the industry, like the indie industry?
I would say well, as you know, we're both part of a board game meetup in Newmarket. So I think that was at least my first real exposure as an adult playing like these indie games. There's always been a few I think I played when I was a kid growing up, but like the meetup was a world that kind of just exploded in my mind with all of these new games that had come out that I had never heard of. I'd never even seen of. I just had no idea about any of them at all. And that sort of led us on this journey to make our own game.
That's something I didn't, and I've known you for a few years now, and I actually didn't know that. I assumed that you were in the indie industry even before the meetup. So before that, was it just basically like Risk and Settlers of Catan and things like that? Or did you even get into like that kind of a game?
Yeah, Settlers of Catan was probably the most indie game that I played, even though that game's been around for like, I think 20 years now.
Yeah.
I can't even remember how long. It's been a long time that game's been out, but that was like the most indie. And then all the other ones were like the traditional Monopoly and like Sorry and Trouble. And then, there's the odd party game like Cards Against Humanity, which, when a game like that catches fire, obviously it's going to reach out to people who don't play a lot of games. They just kind of like want something fun to do with their friends.
Sure.
So when we started working on this, after we started doing the meetup, things kind of like shifted pretty dramatically for me in terms of like development and, making our own stuff, because that was just something that was always a fantasy, and now it's like actually real.
Yeah. That's something I would say for anybody listening out there or watching. If you're looking to learn how to play new games or get exposed, I guess, to new games and kind of really get a good buffet of what's out there, meetups are an amazing way to do that, especially board game meetups, because they're usually run by people who own a lot of games, like collectors and things like that. We know Mike, who leads our meetup group, and he literally has thousands of games in his library, and he's backed hundreds, if not thousands, of Kickstarters. So every week there's always something new that somebody brings, and it's such a joy to kind of get exposed to these new mechanics and new ideas, because it makes you think, right? Okay, what can I do to maybe incorporate that mechanic or idea maybe in something I'm going to work on down the road?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, so where did you and Morgan meet?
Well, we worked together actually for quite some time, and then
a couple of years.
Yeah, so
for sure.
a few years,
even a few years before we got the idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how
And
many
then one
years did
day
you
we
guys work
were.
together? Was it like 5, 6 years or?
Two,
Uh,
three,
Okay.
no, it's at least four.
at
It
least
was at
four.
least four. Yeah, because I
Yeah,
started
probably
in.
only the last year of that was actually digging into Pomelo stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Well, yeah, yeah, because
Yeah.
when COVID hit, that's when things actually picked up speed for us quite a bit. So like 2020 was a year where we pushed so much because we had like 3 months to actually sit down and work on it, and we got so much done in those 3 months. Like our website, we managed to get that out in like a month and a half.
Yeah.
So
And then
that was
so Morgan, you're
beneficial.
so Morgan's back. So Morgan, you're I guess now you're a graphic artist then? Was that is that a better description for you then or?
No, I'm also a graphic designer. I just happen to have interest in illustration, is specifically in anime style.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How long you been
When
interested in anime? Like has that been a lifelong thing
my
or?
entire life.
Yeah.
It's got to be my entire life.
And where did
If
it
I think
start?
back to
Like
early childhood, it's like whatever was playing on YTV, like
Oh
Dragon Ball
yeah.
Z, Sailor Moon,
Ugh,
Astro
Card
Boy?
good times.
Captors, Pokemon. Astro Boy predates me. I'm not that old.
I'm dating myself.
Maybe. uh, yeah. So.
And then were you collecting? Like did like was it like how did you get like obviously you're interested in watching it on TV and so forth. And I want to give a shout out to our friend Andrew Gilpin from Gilpin Games who's actually watching live as well. So hello Andrew. So where did like beyond kind of watching on TV, like did you get into like magazine collection, like
Not
card games, things
really.
like that, or?
I mean, Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That was the jam back in the
Mhm.
90s, right? And I mean, I still now after some time being away, but like come back to it. Like I love that stuff. So I'll go out and I'll get a pack of cards. And I have an unopened one. I don't know why I haven't opened it yet.
Oh wow, you could be
I'm
sitting on a lot
waiting.
of money.
I'm like kind of say maybe. Every day that goes by and I don't open it, I go, should I?
20 years from now, you're like, darn it, that could have paid off the house. So, okay, so you collected some games, but it's
But yeah, I
really,
collect like DVDs and stuff. Actually,
yeah.
you can see a whole bunch of Dragon Ball Z box sets right here. I can't watch any of them because who owns a DVD player anymore? But
And then did you start drawing? Like, did you like, do you do some of the animation drawing yourself for Team
Mhm.
Pomelo or yeah?
yeah. So I started drawing probably as soon as I was able to hold drawing things.
Sure.
I think my mom kept it. It's a piece of what's that? Baseboard. It's a piece of baseboard, and
Mm.
I drew like a T-Rex on it. She kept it, and I was like, all right, weird thing to keep.
And did you think at any point that you would be like commercializing any of these drawings, or was it always just something as a hobby? And it wasn't until you kind of met these guys and connected that the dots kind of connected.
I think that it was always like a dream
Yeah.
to do something with it where anybody would look at it and be like, oh, that's cool, or even want to pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the excitement about it is, there's one level of people that get into anime and manga and, like to just kind of copy their favorite characters, right? That are out there and get the experience there. But then taking that and then saying, okay, we're going to create a new story. We're going to create a new world. We're going to create new characters. That's kind of taking it to another level altogether.
Mhm.
As you were creating this world of Pretty Princess, so who came up with the idea, I guess, first for Pretty Princess Pomelo? Like, where did that idea of just the characters and the world start?
So we've told this story in a couple of places, I think, like in our Kickstarter story and other things. But so the other member of Team Pomelo Games, Nick, he also worked with us, and he made this poster, and it just had some citrus fruits. He was creating something for, I think, an Instagram thing with like drinks, and so he needed like different fruits to like put onto the illustrations to show each drink off and their like special ingredients. And so he made a pomelo, a lime, a blood orange, and a tangerine or something.
Yeah,
Maybe it was
maybe
a
a regular
lemon. Maybe it was a
orange.
lemon.
Yeah,
I don't know.
lemon.
It was four different citrus fruits.
Hmm.
And then to be the little snot he is, he associated people's names with those things, and he made me Pomelo. Um, Pomelos have a thick skin. So, but yeah, we thought it was nice or whatever, nice
Yeah.
little illustration. And I think, see, I've always been like Sailor Moon is one of my favorite things.
Mm-hmm.
Like you actually kind of can't see it because of the camera angle, but like, oh, there they all
Yeah, the
are.
characters and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, love it. So I just like threw it out there just one day. I was like, what if they were magical girls? And it kind of went from there. So then we started thinking like, okay, like what could we do with it? Like we have which one would be the leader? And we're like, well, Pomelo is probably the most interesting and also pink.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big part of whoever is the main character usually.
Sure.
And then we're like, yeah, they're pretty colorful. You got a green one, a yellow one, lots of orange ones.
And did it start as like a magazine or as a story, or was the game idea kind of?
So the game idea was where we came in, like on the entry level. We came up with like a rough like, okay, what's the theme? What's the thing? So the theme ended up being citrus themed princess magical girls versus wolfman pirate like scurvy sea dogs, right? So it was like citrus versus scurvy, and we were just like, well, I mean, pirates versus princess, that's also pretty classic, right? So you think of all the princess pirate birthday parties for kids and stuff. So, but the game was pretty much what we thought of first as a way to do something with it. We were like, what can we do with this theme and this idea and these characters if we want to go forward with it? And I think Alex was the one who suggested, what if we make a game? Since that seems to be sort of where he was going with it. And we were thinking like, a game is totally within our skill set as graphic designers. We can make graphic design pieces like a card design, a layout, text.
Yep.
And me and Nick both happen to be illustrators, so we were like, this is completely doable. And yeah, there you go.
And then creating the actual game itself, like the mechanics and so forth. So Alex, is that more in your camp of kind of coming up with how this game would actually function?
That was a lot of me and Alex.
Yeah, I think I would say I took the lead on actually doing the game mechanics, but Morgan helped out quite a bit with like what works and what doesn't work. I remember for anyone who is an aspiring game designer, Tabletop Simulator, fantastic tool. And we had produced everything after our very first physical copy on Tabletop Simulator. And that allowed us to do like extensive game testing to find out what worked and didn't work, and that
lots of rapid prototyping that way, where you just upload a new PNG sheet and make a new deck, and then you're good to go. Try it out.
That helped a lot.
And then the decision then to go into Kickstarter for your first Kickstarter when you launched the game. Was this something that was always part of the plan, or was it the idea like, let's just get a game that kind of fits this world, and then kind of Kickstarter kind of came out of that? Or what was the order of operations for those things?
I think at a certain point we realized that we had something. And just I had kickstarted several like indie video games up to that point, and I was just like, well, I mean, Kickstarter's a thing, we could do Kickstarter. So
yeah, no, I was kind of the same. I supported a few different projects, not necessarily game related, on Kickstarter. And it made sense for us. At the same time, though, when we were thinking about it, we hadn't been completely sold on Kickstarter yet. Like I remember it was up for debate. And initially it was like, if we go through a production company, they're going to ask us to change a bunch of stuff. And if we do it ourselves, we can do whatever we want.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was very in favor of like Nick and Morgan, especially because they were doing all the illustration, to just do what they want and not have someone tell us like, oh, this needs to be pinker. Like we didn't like that idea, and I didn't like that idea, and I don't think Nick and Morgan liked that idea either.
So this idea of self-publishing versus
to,
going with a publisher, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Unable to relinquish that control, right? Creative control over it.
It was creative control, but it was also like stupid little tiny bits of control too, because like a production company probably would have gotten like maybe done a better job with sales and stuff than we were. But like if they had asked us to do something really dumb, like change the character's entire face or like change the colors up, like that was not okay with us.
Yeah.
So we wanted to do whatever we wanted to do our way and not someone else's way. And we're still learning about what our way is and how we want to do things, because we're not perfect. Like sales and marketing are something that we struggle with because it's just not our background.
Yeah, it's a learning curve. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a learning curve. So, that's
as much as we work in advertising,
right.
Marketing is a completely different thing.
Yeah. So we're still trying to figure it out. We're coming along, and we've definitely got some success, especially with last year. And even now, because our Kickstarter, as of the time of this filming, is successful. Like we've already surpassed what we've gotten, and we're hoping to just keep it going. Yeah, we're already funded. So we're still learning, but
set the bar too low.
So let's talk about the game itself. So those who don't know about Pretty Princess Pomelo or didn't listen to episode 36, can you take us through the game? I'm showing it on screen here for people that are watching live or maybe on the replay. You obviously have your heroes, which are Pretty Princess Pomelo and I guess her band of magical princesses. Is that how you would describe them, or?
Yeah, they're her friends.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're all part of a team. We've got the, it's a whole magical girl squad essentially, right? But the basic principle of the game is you want to get 5 of all one side, so either all 5 heroes or 5 villains.
Yeah.
And it's a team building game. It's not a deck building. Some people sometimes, I guess, make that make that misconception or a little bit confused by that. But it's a team building game where you want to gather all your heroes or all your villains, control the Citron Hearts, and the first person to do that is the winner. And there's a lot of attack and defend, back and forth. We have special cards called anytime cards, which allow people to play certain cards or spells on anyone's turn, and it really shakes things up because it gives people an opportunity to maybe do something even when it's not their turn, and it's really fun and really dynamic, and it's pretty fast paced too. So it's a really fun game.
And then how many people can play? So up to 4 people?
Yeah, up to 4 people. We've been talking about doing expansion yet. I don't think we have an actual timeline of when we want to release that yet, because we had taken a step back last week or earlier this week and just reevaluated a few things. But we do have an expansion we want to release. We've got characters that we've been working on. I think you can even see some on our Instagram page. And actually on our Kickstarter, we have a few artwork pieces, I think, of those characters. So you could get some.
I don't think they are.
Well, for people that are looking to on this campaign, and I want to do the distinction, right? So the first campaign was on the game itself. This campaign is now all the expansions, all the add-ons. But what's cool is that if people still want the original game, you guys have that as a pledge option as well. So they can still get the original game, or if they already have the game like I do. When I came in for this pledge, I'm like, oh, I want the standee, I want that, I want the character artwork. You can add all those things on and expand the game that you have at home.
That's why I was pretty adamant about there being a tier to just get add-ons, because I recognized pretty early right away that a good number of people already have the game.
Yeah.
So they're not in the market to buy another copy of the game, like the base game, with no different cards in it or anything. So it is one of those things where we just wanted some merch.
And then how did you pick the merch? So you've got the posters, which I just showed on the screen, 8x10 prints. You've got 4x6 prints. like I imagine you guys have done a lot of like anime shows and Comic Cons and those types of things to showcase some of this. And again, kudos on the artwork. The artwork looks amazing. But to showcase this, is this kind of some of the merch that you've been selling at conventions and so forth as well, or was this created specifically just for this campaign?
So most of the artwork was created for Instagram, just as regular posts to keep people engaged. And then when we did Anime North in Toronto, and I think for that we decided like, oh, we should turn these into some prints, and they looked great. So like we just wanted to keep adding more prints to our little collection of merch.
Yeah.
And then the promo cards. Can you explain those? Because I think there's a bit of a mystery around that. But what are the promo cards you have in? As I'm just kind of scrolling here as well.
Yeah. So they're. Oh, go ahead. You can explain it.
I don't want to give anything away, but they are new cards. They are not necessarily new characters, but they are new cards. Anybody who's familiar with the game knows that there is one. I guess 2 promo cards already packed into the game.
Yeah.
That would be Princess Blood Orange and her card that allows her to transform easier. There's the what is it
Bloody
called?
Revenge.
Bloody Revenge card.
Yeah.
So those cards are technically promos that come with the game. And so she is technically a transformation card and works on the base form of Princess Orange. So these new cards are a similar vein, some power-up transformations.
I think I might have missed that in my pledge. I'm going to have to go back and adjust my pledge. I don't think I grabbed the promo cards, but I definitely want to make sure I get the promo cards. The standee I got, which I think looks really awesome. This little monkey character, what's the significance of him? Does he have like special powers? Is he a sidekick? What's his role?
So there's a lot more about him. In the game, he's more so just the mascot. He's on the cute companion card for at least the hero side version of that card. There's an opposing character that's on the villain version of that card. But they are used to summon more heroes because you get 1 hero play per turn. But if you play a cute companion, you get to play another, and that's how you start to combo and chain in more characters per turn to achieve your full team. So there's a lot more about him in the lore of the game and the universe, and a lot of that is covered more so in the manga.
Gotcha. Yeah. And that's a great segue. So tell me about this manga. So first, for people that don't know, can you explain what a manga is? And then talk to us a little bit about this I guess graphic novel, or I guess manga novel, or
yeah. So manga is Japanese comic book, basically. Specifically, when you see any kind of anime or something, it's usually an adaptation of a manga. So anything like Dragon Ball Z or something like that, it started as a manga and then they decided to animate it. Usually the animation, certainly nowadays, the animation doesn't necessarily it's like an advertisement for the manga, because manga is actually like just huge in Japan. So it's where all the money is for the publication, and they just do like 12 episodes of an anime, and that's just like one big commercial for the manga, which is ongoing, right? So you might never see a season 2 of a particular anime.
Oh, really?
That's the reason. That's the reason. But so my goal going into it, making the manga, was to make it an authentic manga reading experience. So those who don't know, manga is read in reverse because Japanese reads right to left. Right, so where our books would flip one way, you have to start at the back of the book and go the other way to read it in the right order. So I reproduced this in my layout for the book, or for the pages, and the panel order for all of the comic pages. So it very much reads, anybody who is familiar with manga and how to read it is going to instantly fall into it, because it has the stylings of it. It's very much, it's all black and white, um, like actually black and white. There's no gray scale stuff in there. I use
Sure.
screen tone to get the dotting effect, so that I can have that sort of gradient and different shades, but it's all technically just black ink.
Mhm.
That's how they keep it so cheap.
And is there a disclaimer or an explanation when people get this to let them know, hey, by the way, you might want to read it from
Yes,
right to left?
actually, and that's kind of like,
Like,
that's
what the
like
hell?
a real
Mm.
that's like a holdover too from like when manga first started to appear
Yeah.
here, like in the 90s, and you could go and find one. Like they would always have one on the inside of the back, because you might think like, oh, I'll open it up and check it out, and it's like, stop, this is the back of the book, you need to start from the other side, kind of thing.
Mhm.
So I do a similar little thing where I just like remind people like, hey, this is done in a manga style, you got to read it this way.
Oh, that's cool. And definitely a collector's item as well.
Mhm.
Alex, with and I know since the last campaign, you've got this game into a number of FLG stores. Um, can you, for people out there who maybe are trying to do the hustle themselves, is there any advice you would offer to on how to approach that? Because it's a tough thing, right? Especially if you haven't done sales
Mhm.
before, and you're, for lack of a better word, cold calling. How do you approach stores to get them to carry your game?
Well, one thing I did was do it in person.
Yeah.
Especially if you go to like a local game shop and not something that is franchised. Have a conversation with the owner or the manager, talk to them, be kind, be generous, be informative, and tell them that you really like games, and or you wouldn't be doing this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, just be like authentic and honest, and 9 times out of 10, they're more willing to, sit down, have a conversation with you, try and work with you too, because there's a lot of places out there that, especially like young board game shops, they're doing the same thing, and it's good to help each other out. So I would suggest that. But before I actually did that, what I did was I made a spreadsheet and I listed, just Google Maps too,
Hmm.
all the different board game shops that are sort of in my area, all the way from like, because we're in, I live sort of like in the middle between like Barrie and Toronto, for anyone who's sort of around this area.
For
So
those
I
who are
did like a
listening
whole,
worldwide, that's basically the center of
yeah,
Canada.
well, basically. Anyway, so I just kind of
Yeah.
did like a whole spreadsheet list of like all the game shops that are like around my area, and got all their information. And then every weekend I would like go out to those stores and like pitch our game to them. Some stores bought like, one or two, which was fine with us. And then
Yeah.
some stores bought like six, some stores bought 10. So I mean, it kind of varied between the stores. Excuse me. But it mostly just kind of came down to like, you know, your ability to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation and like build your confidence up, because the only way you're going to get yourself out there is if you get yourself out there.
Yeah.
So,
That's a good point. And do you offer any kind of like incentives like, hey, I'll come and demo this on a certain day, or we'll give you a demo copy, or like, is there any approaches you do in that regard? Or
oh yeah. So for
yeah.
a store that is actually a sit down store where you play games, we automatically give them a free demo copy just so they can have it in their collection. They don't
Mm-hmm.
have to pay anything. It's theirs and it's free. And that helps them help us all together, because they're getting a free game to add to their collection. They don't have to pay anything. They also sell a bunch of games in their store. Most game stores do, at least, where it's like also sit down.
Yeah.
So having that incentive was very helpful for them, because it's like, okay, they're really invested, or else they wouldn't just be giving away a free copy of their game. Like, they don't really know how much it costs to make. I mean, we
Yeah.
do, but they wouldn't just be throwing away product where they could make money off it if they weren't really trying hard to make it work. So That's something that we did, and I think we gave away, just to stores. I think we gave away anywhere from like 10 to 20 copies, I think, and we're in 12 or 13 stores right now. It's just sort of local to our area, not counting all the distribution that we've done with the distribution company now, which is fairly new.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. That, I mean, there's no place to start than your own backyard.
Yeah.
Right. Like within your own locale, you can, get to those stores, offer support. If they want to do demo nights, game nights, whatever, you're there to support them. Right. So at the very least, you should be starting in your own backyard and kind of branch out from there. So this is a second iteration. This is a second Kickstarter campaign you guys have done. What comes after this? Are you guys working on more Pretty Princess Pomelo stuff? Like, is the world expand from there, or is there a different game, different genre you're working on? Kind of what's the plans for your company?
So that's something that Morgan, myself, and Nick, we all talked about figuring that out. Of course, we want to do an expansion, and we have started working on a few things here and there, but we did want to take a step back and reevaluate, just because we noticed that if we could get people to fall in love with the characters, and we saw that happen to several people who saw the characters like in person when they were buying artwork, it felt like we could maybe build the brand a little bit better that way. So I think we're still talking about exactly what we want to do before we go ahead and do it. But we still have a lot of plans to push that forward. And we'll figure it out. I don't know if we fully figured it out. I don't know if Morgan has anything to add to that.
It's just going to be a lot of focusing more on, like you said, the characters and getting people into the universe. So we're going to be looking to expand upon the manga as a main vehicle for the lore and universe. So certainly go check it out. It's available on Webtoon and on our Patreon as well.
Oh, sweet.
And it's free there, so you don't even have to pay in on the dollar. That's just if you want to get extra stuff. The actual comics flat is there in high quality for free. Webtoons is a little more compressed, but at least you can scroll through all of the pages really easy, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
For people who are looking to get information on this game, I'd encourage them to check out your website, which is prettyprincesspomelo.com. Kickstarter campaign. Type in Pretty Princess, is going to pop up right away as well. I'll also put a link in the show notes, both on our social media accounts as well as on the actual podcast notes itself, with a link directly to the Kickstarter page. I encourage people to check it out and see this world that these guys have built. It really is something to behold. And guys, I know you have almost you just started, so you got almost a whole month to go here. So I want to wish you all the best on this campaign. Can't wait to see where it finishes off. And more importantly, I can't wait to get my add-ons. You guys take care.
Me too.
Thanks, Jay.
Cheers. This has been an episode of the Board Game Binge podcast, hosted by James Staley, produced by James Staley and Mike Bruner, with original music by Nick Smith. If you would like to watch these interviews live, simply subscribe to our YouTube channel, Board Game Binge, and you'll get access to live interviews, giveaways, and interesting board game content from across the industry. I can't wait for you to join us. See you next time.